authorization in SharePoint is done based on a user's permission level for a given context. And you can view permission levels by clicking on the permission levels ribbon on the People and Groups page, which we've already done in a previous demo. And in the browser, a named set of permissions is a permission level. So in the object model, the SP role definition class represents that permission level. And there's also the SP role definition has a base permissions property, which is a bit mask of SP base permissions enumeration values. So you can assign a permission level to a group or a user. So basically, by what you're doing is you're binding a role definition to any iSecurable object via the role assignments property. So like SP user or SP group would have an iSecurable object. Actually, I take that back. Something like a list item would implement the iSecurable object interface, and you can bind a role definition to the role assignments property. So this is a listing of the default associated groups and then their corresponding permission levels. So in our case, we were using test site collection. So test site collection owners, that they have full control. That is the permission level that has been defined for that group that's been associated with it. And for members, they get the contribute permission level. And then visitors, the only thing they can do is read. There's also groups that are more specialized. So for example, we have publishing turned on. So there's approvers, authors, quick deployment users, those types of groups are also there. But this is the basic set. So it's not necessary to place a user in the owners group to provide design permissions. As this table shows, there's an intermediate level named design that enables users to be able to edit lists, libraries, and pages. So you don't have to give them full control of the site just so they can edit a particular list on a site. Again, in different versions of SharePoint, so like the enterprise version versus standard license, the site definitions have a little bit more of a granular set. So publishing in particular, there's different permission levels. So that's where you would see the manage hierarchy, permission level, approve, and restricted read. At this point, you may be wondering, what a permission level actually is. It's really just a named set of individual permissions. So just as groups enable you to apply permissions to a collection of users, permission levels collect many individual permissions into an easily applied set. So whereas the predefined groups and permission levels vary depending on the site definition, the individual named permissions for lists are always consistent across all site definitions, and they provide very granular control of user rights. So permissions for lists are manage, so you can create, delete, work with columns and views. Items for adding, editing, deleting, viewing. There's create alerts, approve and manage versions, view application pages, enumerate lists. So you can see there's quite a few here. There's lots of individual site level permissions, and again, these are typically grouped into a higher level, like the role definition, like the manage, or one of the other ones, either full control or contributing, that type of thing. That kind of groups all these basic, granular items into something that's a little bit easier to digest. So there's also personalization permissions. So by default, users that are in the members group have permissions defined by the contribute permission level. That means they can't configure the site's shared views, but SharePoint does support personalization. So those types of users, if you're in the members group and you have a contribute permission level, you could do your own personalized views of web part pages and lists. It's just that it wouldn't be shared with everybody else. And the same thing goes with adding or removing personal web parts. So you could remove personal web parts on a page or add them. And then same thing, update properties on personal web parts. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to programmatically create and apply a permission level. Okay, in this demo we're going to go ahead and apply a permission level named Restricted Read on a SharePoint Foundation team site. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to Site Contents, and I'm going to add a pictures library. I don't believe we have one of those yet, so let's add that. There's a picture library. I'm going to call it Pictures. Create that. So by default, this picture library it's using inherited permissions. So let's look at the permissions for the picture library. So I'll click on that. So notice how it's saying this library inherits permissions from its parent, test site collection. So we're going to stop inheriting. So right now, we'll just go ahead and stop inheriting permissions. Okay, so we've broken the chain there, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the visitors group. So the visitors right now, this group, test collection visitors, they can read, which means they can go ahead and edit the user permissions. So they can view pages and list items and download documents. So what I want to change that to, though, is I want to change it to restricted read. So they can view pages and documents, but no historical versions or user permissions. So let's just change that. Okay. So visitors now have restricted read. Same as restricted readers. We could use that group as well, but I just want to show you how you can change that. Okay, so now let's go back to the pictures library. I'm just going to upload a picture. Okay, I'll save this. Now what I'm going to do, let's go back to the home page and we'll just edit the page. And I'm just going to put the picture on this page. So let's see, insert picture from SharePoint, and we'll go to our pictures library, pick the demo logo, okay, save that. Okay, so what I want to show now is I'm logged in as a site collection administrator right now, but we do have our other user, Alice Smith, and she's a member of the visitors group. And so what I want to do is log in as Alice, and she should be able to log into the site because she does have access to the site. But then we put restricted read on the pictures library, so she shouldn't be able to browse that library. So this should actually not be there when she logs in. We can even try to directly take her to that library, and she shouldn't be able to. So what I'm going to do is just close the browser. In SharePoint 2013, you can't log in as a different user. You need to do it from the browser settings. So I'm going to run IE as a different user. And we'll use Alice Smith, alice.smith. Okay, so Alice can log in. She can see the site. She can see this picture, so she can actually she's able to read that file. But now, if I go and try to change this to be /pictures, which should take us to the pictures library, she hasn't been, she doesn't have access to that because we specifically put her in the restricted readers group. So if I go back in as myself, I'll be able to do that no problem. So that's the view I get. But Alice, we didn't give her that permission. And so actually, one thing I forgot to take a look at is, let's go back in as Alice. Oops. Okay, we know that. All right, so okay, Alice can log in. Now notice how Pictures is not in the quick launch here anymore either. SharePoint is smart enough to figure out that Alice does not have access to that, so it doesn't show it in the quick launch bar. Even though it's set to go into the quick launch, there's some security trimming that's been done there. So if I go back in as myself, of course it's right here, and I can navigate to that. So that's a quick little demo on how site permissions work, how custom permission levels work inside SharePoint 2013.